Hello, everybody. This is Sasha. Welcome to my little corner of the internet. And today I have an amazing guest with me. I have Dianne Shepperd. She's a holistic sexuality coach. She works a lot with astrology and the Jade Egg. We shared that part, and we were just discussing so many juicy things. And I really want to get you into the conversation because you don't want to miss this. Hello, welcome, Dianne.
Hi, Sasha. It's so great to be here. Thanks for having me.
Oh, such a pleasure. It's such a pleasure. So, um, Diane and I are speaking a lot about the power of menopause in our sexuality. And it's such an important conversation because so many women have incorporated the idea that with menopause, sexuality is cursed to die, to wither, and with it, we as well, right? Like I have seen women, it's so evident when they let their sexuality die because they start kind of going into a period of contraction and
Mm.
contraction and contraction, which is not the natural contraction and expansion, but more like constant contraction. It's like they lose that balance that sexuality brings. And I know that's what you work a lot with, menopause and sexuality. Could you tell us a little bit about this?
Yeah, well, you just hit the nail on the head there, Sasha. It's and the date, yeah, as you know, with the Jade Egg practice, the foundation of it is the idea that our sexual energy and our sexuality is like the foundation of our health, our happiness, our vitality, our creativity, so many things. So it's not just about sex. I mean, sex is great, but it's so holistic in that sense. And I think we get really strong messages of the opposite. I remember a terrible pelvic exam I had when I was going through menopause on the earlier side at age 40. And the doctor, she was a woman, said to me that it's like the beginning of the end was her message, basically. I had a lot of vaginal dryness and some pain and a lot of other issues going on with my pelvic floor after having 3 babies. Anyway, so she was just like, oh, yeah, what do you expect? This is like, get used to it. It's like, she was horrible. So anyway, I left. She gave me this big stack of papers and all these tests I had to take. And I just put them on the counter and walked out. And I never came back.
Yeah.
I was like, there's got to be some better way. I mean, I'm not ready to accept that. Yeah.
Wow, wow. But this happens so often. I remember like the message that is constantly sounding in my family that I know that it's common in many other families is like, you better get rid of your uterus because before it gets you sick. It's like, oh, you won't have kids anymore. You will start getting cyst. You better remove it as a prevention. Even if you don't have anything wrong with it, you just better remove it. And
Right.
oh, it's so much better to be like this now because you don't have the male attention. So there's like this sense of treating sexuality and sexuality as a whole, like the sexual energy, because I love that you mentioned that it's not just about sex, it's about the energy, the aliveness. But they treat it like a dangerous thing that it's better to have removed.
Absolutely. Like it's a disease or a disease waiting to happen or something like that for sure. And, if you need surgery, there's definitely solid medical reasons, right? Of course. But like if you don't know if you need some drastic measure like that, and when you take out organs, you're actually setting yourself up for some other serious problems like pelvic organ prolapse, for example. You're creating all that space in there and that's like when organs start to collapse into the vagina and even fall out of the body. And that's way more common than we think, right? Yeah, and it's a big business here in the States as well. With yeah,
Yes,
yeah.
that's terrible. And then I think that one of the most important messages that need to come out is something that you just mentioned. That sexuality and sexual energy are not, like sexual energy is like this source of life. It's not just about having sex, it's the source of our life. That's the basics of the Jade Egg practice. It's not about
Yeah.
a rock that you insert on.
Right. Right.
There's so much more than that. It's a practice that
Yeah.
has to deal with
Yeah.
life force. So
Oh my God. Yeah. Yeah.
how
I see it as like a yoga. I see it as like a yoga practice, really. Yeah. Like it wakes up your the Shakti or the sacred feminine energy in you. And And it might sound kind of out there, esoteric, or woo woo, however you say that, until you experience it, right? Because it's like, if you've never experienced it, you're like, what are they talking about? That sounds really weird. But when you feel that energy, there's definitely energy there, and it is creative life force. And I think at midlife, menopause, women are heading into this chapter of their lives that is so potent, or can be so powerful. And to have full access to vitality, juiciness, creativity, where you can say, start an encore career, start a new relationship, or just, or whatever you want to create. And so your ovarian energy is available to, create what you want to create. So
I just wish we could just make this be viral, because I have seen many things regarding this topic that I really wish we could discuss. One is the Jade Egg practice, like, taken over by these young, beautiful women, which is amazing. There is no age to start and no age to finish. But it's like, when I see older women, I am in my 40s as well, I am 40, and I see this practice by young, beautiful, athletic women, I don't feel identified. If I were to start right now, I wouldn't really feel identified. Well, gladly, when I started the practice, I started because I heard from it from a doctor, Dr. Christiane.
Oh my gosh. Yeah, we have a connection there. Yeah. I love her so much. Yeah.
She's amazing.
Yeah.
But what I love is that she gave the Jade Egg that seriousness. She spoke about the power it has to create that healthy body balance, right? So that's one of the topics. Like, the Jade Egg practice is not just for young women to have like tight pussies and like posing naked on Instagram, which is amazing. They are so, I mean, it's beautiful to see beautiful women doing whatever they want, but it's about a practice that we can take anytime. So I'm so curious, and I really want to hear your story. And I froze. Oh my God.
Oh, you came back. Yep,
yeah, I froze for a moment.
That's okay. It happens.
I don't see myself yet, but hopefully I will appear in a moment.
Yeah, I see you.
Oh, great. So what I am curious, and I want really to hear about is your experience of empowerment with this tool. How was your journey like?
Oh my goodness, with the Jade Egg. Yeah, well, it's funny that you said Dr. Christiane Northrup. I kind of convolutedly came to the Jade Egg through her, because she pointed me towards Mama Gina and the school of mastery that she taught. Anyway, where I heard about the Jade Egg. And I guess just on the physical plane for empowerment, it was so huge for me, because I had really bad vaginal dryness. Even apart from sex, which was not happening because it just felt so uncomfortable. It just feels uncomfortable. Like, it just feels really felt bad in my body, right? And then with the Jade Egg, over time, it completely turned around. Like, I would say, like, succulence, like I've never experienced before in my life. Like, because, just from an exercise perspective, what you do is you build tissue through increased blood flow, right? And oxygen. And over time, it takes time, but you can absolutely just build this beautiful restorative tissue there that feels really good, just from that physical standpoint. And like I said, I used to teach Pilates. My career was in fitness, and I was a Pilates instructor. And I'm really fascinated with the vagina and the yoni as being the source of our core strength and empowerment too. So the Jade Egg really helped me get the dexterity. And this is something I love to share with women. And it usually blows their minds at first, like, that the vagina can be as dexterous as our hand, right? It's like, has that kind of sensitivity or that kind of versatility if you really get into the subtle movement of it. And the Jade Egg offers that, because it's so, agile. You can be agile with it. So not to get too specific on that, but there's so much empowerment there, just to have that mastery of your own body, just for you, for your own pleasure. And if you choose to share that with a partner, any kind of partner, it can really enhance the whole experience, because you just feel you have a lot more agency, right? A lot more authority in your embodiment. Yeah.
I love that. And it makes me think about first of all, this idea that it's just about a rock that you put in and the rock does all the work.
Yeah.
Well, it's like, oh, it has to be this kind of gem because then it does like this magic because it's a property of the stone. Like, no, it's your practice. It's what you do with it. Just like you mentioned, the mobility that you get with it, with your hand, it's the same that happens when you learn to squeeze it properly in your vaginal canal. So
Yeah.
how did that generate changes other than physical in your energy, in your mood, in your life in general?
Oh my gosh, as far as mood went, it just felt like I had a lot deeper access to sustainable joy and pleasure, and just mood elevation. When you think about it, there's a lot of talk about grounding, which is wonderful, getting grounded, but levity is just as important. And the Jade Egg kind of offers that levity, right? That lift from inside. And I really feel like that affects your emotions too. It just felt like happier, and like I wasn't leaking, I guess from more of a Taoist perspective, I wasn't leaking chi or energy from my pelvic floor anymore. And I was leaking a lot of energy and urine, but, and that all turned around, like, no more incontinence, of course, but like energetically, I think that it just helps you pull in the energy, the life force, where you can be stronger and happier, more vital. Yeah.
I love that. That was actually the reason why I started using the Jade Egg. I used to have a little incontinence, and I was like too young to have incontinence, and I was worried about what would happen if
Sure.
I left it unattended. Like,
Yeah.
if this is me after just having 2 babies, what will happen in 10, 20, 15 years, right? So
Right.
that was totally turned around by the Jade Egg practice. And then I started seeing all the changes that came with it. I was so surprised. I didn't expect that.
Yeah. Tell me about some of your changes. I'd love to hear that. And
Well, first of all, I felt reconnected to my pussy and my pleasure and my beauty. I remember this very specific day in which I was so sad. I was really, really sad because I was going through a very hard time in my relationship and in my life in general. And I wore my Jade Egg and I started dancing. I didn't know the Taoist practices yet. I just started dancing, and I just felt like dancing and moving with the Jade Egg inside. And then I went out to the street, and a kid approached me with wide, beautiful eyes, and she said, "Are you a queen?"
Ah! Oh my gosh, that's like the best story ever. Well, yes, I am actually.
Her mom came quickly apologizing. I'm sorry.
That's so
Maybe it's the dress. And I'm like, because I was wearing a skirt. I was wearing a skirt.
No,
but it was the radiance.
That Shakti. Yeah. The divine feminine. Oh my gosh. That's so great. And that's a big part of what the Jade Egg does. That's kind of hard to explain to people, that it just wakes up your Shakti, your sacred feminine, right? And a lot of us have really kind of closed that down for good, valid reasons, right? And then, yeah.
And we see that as normal. We normalize that it has to be shut down. We normalize that people just, especially in this part of the world. Something that I find very interesting is that this ideology is not the same as in China, for example, where these practices really had a foundation, where Taoism came from. You see people in China, and they are still working out and moving, and they still have flexibility and health in their late life, in their 80s, 90s. I mean, you see people that is still doing amazing things, that they are healthy, that they are powerful, that they are that their chi is flowing right. But you see people in this side of the world, and it's like the Western culture has normalized the withering and dying, especially for women.
Big time.
It's kind of connected with our desirability. It's like, you are no longer desirable, then you can wither and die. And that's not the way we work.
Oh my goodness. Yeah, that whole, I love the second spring, right? And in Chinese medicine, right, they talk about the second spring and how menopause is, just an opening to a whole new chapter of your life where you can use your sexual energy. We think about energy and chi, sexual chi, and convert it into spiritual chi, right? And energy and all kinds of good stuff. Yeah.
That idea, the second spring, it's like
Mm.
we can rebloom, we can go back into life. It's not about, and well, for those that don't know, second spring is how they call menopause, right? So it's like, it's not a time of withering and dying, it's a time of finding ourselves in another stage of life, having this second opportunity.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. A rebirth. Absolutely. Yeah. And it's really not talked about in that way in the States for sure. Yeah. Yeah. Well, we're starting the conversation. We're starting.
Exactly. I think that's so important. Like,
Yeah.
because there is this idea that women after a certain age just disappear. Like, we have to start disappearing from view. We have to start being invisible because we are undesirable. Therefore, nobody cares about us, right? Like, our value is equal to how much a man wants us.
Right. It's crazy. Yeah. And I think it's, in a way, it's almost like it's a scare tactic in a way, I think, I love conspiracy theories, but it's like, because a woman who's really, it's not her first rodeo, she's been around, she's not going to put up with any crap from a guy, right? And it's like someone who's really in her full sexual empowerment, who's got that kind of power, it's that's a force to be reckoned with, right? And so maybe it's convenient for some people to really kind of try to push older women aside, like, why don't you go off in the corner, get a hobby and just be quiet over there. When I think that's changing globally. Like, women are just waking up to the Shakti within. Like, wait a minute, I so many women I talk to my age, I'm 57 now, and they feel like they're just getting started. Like, I am just starting. And quite often their husbands or partners are kind of like, oh, I thought I was winding down and retiring. Like, no, I'm starting a new career. And there's some men that are like, oh, okay. And they get inspired and then they do a rebirth as well. But if they don't have that feminine energy around that's vibrant, I think that they just kind of follow suit too sometimes. It's interesting. Not that it's our job to fix anybody at all, but like, I've seen that, like, when a woman just, it's either the, say it's a husband, for example, a partner, they either kind of like rise to the occasion, quite literally, or they go away. Like, it's like, either, if they're going to meet you, great. But a lot of women who wake up like in this way, they're just not going to put up with that, of mediocrity. Yeah.
I love that so much. The power of the crone, the power of being this aware, sexually joyful crone. And there is another thing that you mentioned that is so important. It's energetically leaking. You told me that you were energetically leaking. So we spoke about this. I want to mention that because it's so important. So many women end their lives having or start their older age having incontinence. Incontinence is something that happens too much and is too silent. It's unspoken. We need to speak more about incontinence. But also about energy leakage. How we drain our energy. Just the Taoist mentioned that we have like this energy resource that we start leaking, and when we enter this second spring, most women just keep leaking until they wither, right? But that's why the importance of the Taoist practices is that they teach us how to reclaim this energy, how to reuse it, how to recycle it, and refill this source.
Yeah, and store it, and how to store it, like, so it's really available for you. Yeah.
That's so important. That's something that people don't usually speak about when they speak about the Jade Egg. Maybe because it is a practice that it's, again, being taken over by younger generations, so they don't really mind about this energy leakage and restoring and reclaiming but it's important that we speak about it, because that's such an important part of the practice, like feeling alive again.
Yeah, absolutely. Feeling like you again, right? Like, yeah, exactly. Yeah. It's so true. And yeah. And just to speak a little bit to some of the marketing out there as far as getting like a tight vagina or being kind of about the lover being a guy usually, whatever. It's, first of all, you never want a tight pussy. You know what I mean? Toned, yes. Supple, yes. Dexterous, yes. But tight, that's like a recipe for danger and pelvic pain. And so I hate to see that when people say Kegel your eggs and da da da. I'm like, no, don't, because it's like, you know, it's much more dynamic than that. There's this whole flow to it. Flow is a big part, I think, as you know, of like working with it with pleasure, and it's a yoga practice, right? And yeah, so it's not about just like, yeah, putting the egg up there. It's kind of like, that would be like buying, say, a set of weights and letting them sit in your closet or something, right? Or like buying a yoga mat and never rolling it out and thinking it's gonna like help you get your chi back, right? It won't. But yeah, anyway, I hope I didn't go off topic there, but yeah, the energy leakage, and then so important as we get older too, because there's a tremendous amount of energy available. In fact, I think more so now because I'm less distracted by other responsibilities. I could really just kind of zone in on it.
I love that. Yes, like we were just speaking about this phrase, like it deserves to come on the podcast, like closing the factory and opening the I forgot the word. The
amusement park. I just love that you share that so much. I mean, that's, yeah.
That's so important. You want to enjoy this new part of life.
Oh my gosh, yeah. It's neat. There's this Chinese medicine doctor. His name is Dr. Mao. I forgot his first name, but he wrote a little book. It's like just a little tiny book, really simple, called Second Spring. And he practices, I think, in California. I think he was featured on Sex and the City at one point. I don't know, but he he became kind of a big thing. But yeah, he has this book about Second Spring, and he tells a story about how his mother, you know, just reinvented herself after having her kids and out of the house. And yeah, so there's like so much more to look forward to, and there's so much fear that gets put on women, you know.
I love that.
Yeah. And it's so funny because then people will, you know, I have so much respect for doctors in general. My husband's an MD. He's a doctor, and a lot of my friends are, you know, I hang out with them. A good doctor will absolutely admit when they don't know about a thing, right? And then there's others out there that will start going off and ranting about the jade egg, for example, and they don't know anything about the practice. So you have to be careful, right, when you're researching too, because there's one doctor in particular that likes to rip it apart, and she just had no clue about what it was about. So yeah.
Especially because the same doctors then turn and tell you, but do your Kegels. Like, what do you think the Jade Egg is about? Like, in a very physiological way, it's much better than doing just Kegels.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah. Because the precision, and a lot of people don't know this, like the original, I know you do, but the original, well, Dr. Kegel, Arnold Kegel, who's a gynecologist, he created this like vaginal device. So it was a vaginal device that he used, and he had a huge success rate, like 87% in one study of curing urinary incontinence, right? That was his goal. And so the thing we're taught to do, Kegels, whatever you want to say, is just squeezing and releasing. There's no precision, right? It's like, what are we squeezing?
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. Yeah, right. First of all, women don't know how to do the Kegels, right? The idea of squeeze and release is so vague. Like, oh, well, hold your pee. Wait a minute, what are you talking about? Yeah, like okay, hold my pee, but then what? It just becomes like this very vague idea of what you should be doing, but never really do. And then
there's that. And then Sasha, I wanted to see your perspective on this, but it's so mechanical. Do you know what I mean? And I feel like that loses a lot of the power of the practice, because when it's so mechanical, you don't tap into that deeper flow, that deeper pleasure. That's been my experience. I'd love to hear what you think.
Yeah, so many things. First of all, nowadays there are devices like the one that Dr. Kegel invented that you actually connect to your phone, And it's okay because they
Right.
press, right? They are for you to
Right.
press, like well done Kegels that are done by the guidance of a medic. They are done with a device.
Yeah.
And that's what we pretty much do with the Jade Egg, but we incorporate the element of pleasure, of
Yeah.
self-empowerment, of
Mhm.
connection, of
Mhm.
playfulness,
Yeah.
of juiciness, of
Yeah.
just adding this flavor of uh, self sovereignty, because
Yeah.
you
Yeah.
don't do it for health. Health
Mhm.
becomes an extra. Health becomes
Yeah.
something
Yeah.
that you get
Yeah.
as a plus, but you do it for pleasure.
Oh. Oh, I love that.
And
Yeah.
if that is our approach to
Yeah.
anything in life, we are going to get so much more. You who have been in the fitness industry, people that just work out
Mhm.
for just to lose weight, they are just going to do it for a
Right.
certain amount of time, and then they are going to lose interest. But
Right.
when they do it for the pleasure of the workout, when they enjoy their
Yeah.
sport, when they enjoy what
Yeah.
they are doing, they are going to keep on doing that and get more out of it.
Oh my gosh, absolutely. Well said. Yeah. Yeah. And there's just even like, not to get too geeky about the anatomy, but when you think about this part of the human body, it's really designed to like draw something in and push something out, right? So there's like this kind of jellyfish move to it, right? This flow. It's not like a piston and an engine, like, or so, you know what I mean? Like I don't know. It's not about a clench and release. And maybe for some people that could be fun. I don't know. I'm more of a flow girl myself. I like I like to feel the pleasure.
And that's pretty much
Yeah.
um, the empowering part of the practice, that you make
Mhm.
it as playful as you want to do it, as sexual as
Mm.
you want to do it, as wild as you want to do it. It becomes
Yeah.
something personalized. Like
Yeah.
there are people that focus a lot on the weight
The
lifting.
weightlifting. Hmm.
Yeah, and there are people that focus more on the playfulness and belly dancing with their jade egg, and
Yeah.
that focus more on,
Yeah.
roaring and just
Yeah.
rolling and allowing the wild aspect to come through.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's a practice that it's yours.
Yeah. Yeah. And it depends on the day, right? So some days I'm like, oh, this is a primal day for sure. I got doing some sounding and yeah. Yeah.
And some days it's
That's
just
so
like I want
true.
just to have it in, to feel the company and the love, and just to feel
Yeah,
like
yeah.
something is giving me love and attention, and then you release, right? Like
Mhm.
this connection.
Absolutely.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Yeah.
so beautiful. So Um, I I really love to have a JDEC conversation with somebody that has this wider experience of JDEC practice, because
Oh,
again, it's like the common theme is more about the sensual aspect, the partner, like you mentioned, and
mm.
the tight vagina, which again, I mean, people that suffer from a tight vagina will tell you, please don't.
Don't do that. Any physical therapist, right? But don't. Yeah. Yeah.
Some people are really suffering.
Yeah, no, seriously. Yeah. Yeah.
And so I just really want to finish this podcast with an advice to women who are getting into this second spring, and they are listening to us,
Mm.
and they are going like, "Oh my God, I want some of that. How can I get that?
Mm.
What's the next step that I need to take?"
Oh, that's a great question. Yeah, I mean, I'm of the belief that I think every woman deserves an experience of really exploring this jade egg practice, just because it is so empowering. And I think a lot of women will be really surprised at what it offers, but again, it's so experiential. So I would say check it out. Work with someone like Sasha for sure, and
Like
dive
yourself.
you know, and explore that, and just be open to your authenticity of what's going to come up, because and that's a lot of why I bring astrology into my work too. It's too short to talk about it this time, but it's really about authenticity and our unique essence, our Shakti essence, right? And if you really sit with, say, oh, I want to do this practice, I think it's really helpful to know your why, like getting clear on your why of like, why for you at this moment in time? Why would you want to do it? And just sit with that and see what comes up for you. And I like to tell my clients, like, build an altar or a vision board to your why, before you even start a practice, because that's going to keep you in the practice, because it's, you're going to meet some resistance, we all do. And to be consistent is the key. So many women I know will get an egg, get excited, and then it sits in the drawer.
Mm-hmm.
Or, taking it on as you would a yoga practice where you're going to show up for yourself. I think that's the biggest challenge, and why coaching is so valuable too. Yeah. Because a lot of stuff comes up.
And that was so important as well, like getting yourself the right teachings, the right container, a coach,
container,
a course, just a container to learn the practice so that you can make it your own. Because if you just get a Jade Egg and leave it in the drawer, it's just gonna get dust. It's not gonna really get any benefit for yourself.
Totally. Yeah, well said.
Yeah.
Yep. And don't be afraid to ask for support. And I think that's a big part of our healing, is breaking this kind of silence around things like this, because that's when we can get stuck in shame and all those things, when, but have a nice strong container with sisterhood to talk about the stuff for real can be healing in and of itself. Yeah. So.
And that the power is not in one stone, but in your practice. It's your life force that you're circulating. I mean, I feel like the most delicious queen when I am wearing the Jade Egg, because it's cake and I feel like so luxurious. But the truth is that it's not about the rock that much. It's beautiful and the properties, right? But it's about your own energy.
Yes. Oh my gosh, something just came in. Can I just share real quick? Okay. That is such a great, I guess, metaphor really of what this can really teach us, or what it has to offer, is that that magic that you maybe felt with a lover, that sometimes we can get addicted to or think it's about what that person provided for us. That magic is really in us, and the Jade Egg can help us remember that. I think there's a part of us that knows that, but to really reclaim like that orgasmic power, that bliss, that actually is in us, and we can cultivate that and have it more sustainable, and not be dependent on someone else to provide it, kind of thing.
Absolutely. That's so important. I love that you mentioned that. Yes. Oh my God.
I know. We could go on and on.
Oh my God, but that's so important. Please remember that the power is in you. You can make
Yeah. And we've all been conditioned to outsource that big time. Yeah.
Outsource our pleasure and our joy, and in this case, even with something that empowering as the Jade Egg practice, we end up giving the power away to stone, right?
Yes. Oh my gosh. Well said. Yeah. Like it has to be this magic stone that does it. It's not me.
Exactly. But it's you.
It's you. And that's the big part of the healing, is like kind of owning that, right? Yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, I really want people to hear that. That's a big part of the healing, knowing that it's you. It's always beautiful. Thank you so much for joining us in this conversation. I just really want to go on and on and on. It's so delightful to talk about the Jade Egg with another expert. I just feel like, yes, please speak with
I know. And thank you to your audience to letting us wax poetic and geek out about the Jade Egg, because we love it so much.
So please remember to get in touch with Dianne in her website and on her Instagram. She's offering coaching one-on-one. She's offering also her beautiful astrology as part of the process that she delivers. It's astrology, Jade Egg coaching all together. So you're in for an amazing ride.
Oh, thank you so much.
Thank you. So I'll be seeing you soon.
All right, love. Such a pleasure. Take care.